mighty words I think many of us need to hear today. And so I want to welcome you once again. My name is Reverend Alice Reed, and I'm the spiritual director here at Centers for Spiritual Living in Santa Cruz. And I'm really happy to have you here on the broadcast. I was thinking as we're moving through the broadcast this morning, and we have just a smattering of people who are helping us to transform and move from the all-digital broadcast to the live audience and digital broadcast. This must be what people felt like in the 60s when TV was going to live audiences and you were trying to figure out which audience you were serving. I have beautiful faces in front of me, but I also have your face in front of the camera. So it's really an interesting transition. So welcome. I want to tell you that we're shooting for an opening date where we can have people in the sanctuary, and we're looking at October 11th. But anything COVID, I need you to be flexible. I need you to be really flexible, because as things change, we'll have to adjust to them. But right now, that's what we're looking at. We'll need you to reserve your place in the sanctuary so we make sure we have enough people, or I should say enough chairs, because we do have to space you out. So keep attuned to the e-news, and we'll have more detailed information for you shortly. We are wrapping up the month of September, and all month we've been talking about facing our fear. And facing our fear, of course, if I say to you facing your fear, the first thing that comes up is run and get the hell out of here. No. The first thing that probably comes up is faith, right? When we have fear, the best remedy is faith. And so that's what we've been talking about all month. In week 1, we talked about faith as a resource. And then in week 2, we talked about fear as a catalyst. In week 3, Reverend Elijah spoke to us about really investing in our faith and trusting our faith. And today, I want to talk about the need to walk out our faith and to take action that is faith-inspired and motivated. And I want to read something to you. If you are a contributor to our center, you probably received this in the mail. If you haven't received it yet, you'll get it early next week. And some wise words that I want to share with you. So this is from Ernest Holmes. As never before, our thoughts, our meditations, our hopes, and our prayers must rise in one common accord. And you and I should form the habit of taking definite time each day to pray for peace with justice, for there is no peace possible without justice. We should take time each day to pray, to know, and to meditate on the thought, and to meditate affirmatively with complete acceptance that our leaders everywhere are being guided by the all-sustaining wisdom and upheld by the all-sustaining power of good. And we should pray for the peace of our own minds, that we shall not become confused. But faith without works is dead. We should not only pray, we should act, each contributing the best he has to the common purpose, each willing to make any sacrifice necessary, not a sacrifice reluctantly made, but as one who offers all they have to two great purposes. One, in a certain sense, a selfish one, for we all desire self-preservation. But the other in the greater sense that there can be no individual self-preservation without preservation of all. And for if the whole nation works together and prays together, a great moral and spiritual power, an actual soul force will penetrate the whole world, helping to bring forward and calm judgment and right action until the crisis shall have passed. Freedom need never be ashamed of itself, nor liberty bow to despair. God is always on the side of right, and faith will always conquer fear. The world is perhaps at the point of the greatest crisis in all human history, and there seem to be two attitudes we can assume. One is calmness, faith, and conviction. The other would be despair. And despair is unthinkable. Let each in his own way dedicate their time, their service, their hope, and their spiritual conviction to the common cause of liberty and justice for all. And let's work without tiring and pray without ceasing. We know that on the battlefront and in the rear guard, something alive with meaning is taking place. Something vibrant with hope is happening. Something latent with the possibility of the future is being conceived. When I came across that essay, it's actually an excerpt from Ernest Holmes, and it's called Spiritual Armament. And Ernest Holmes says those words in August of 1950. And yet, as I read those words, I can feel the resonance to what we're experiencing in our nation today. There's an undercurrent of challenge, an undercurrent of divisiveness. There's a us against something else kind of thing going on. And I know I'm not the only one feeling this. I know I'm not the only one experiencing this. And so this is our time to really lean in. I have to think. Well, I'm going to step back from what I think, and I'm going to tell you what I'm experiencing. I have to know my experience that when I get into that place, when I'm, arming for battle, you know that place, do you? I certainly know it. That underneath that is fear. Underneath that is a place where I'm afraid. Underneath that is an unneed met. An unmet need, even. Underneath that is some place where I'm not feeling like I'm on solid ground. And I'm not so sure that I'm comfortable leaning in and, how do they say, leading with my chin. I'm not so sure I'm comfortable yet with how to navigate this environment that seems to be coming up. And I don't know if it's the age that I'm at, that I'm more aware of it, that I'm seeing it more, or if it's well, no, I think it's pretty real, don't you? Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty real. I think we've got COVID, we've got the economy, we've got politics, we've got climate change. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to be afraid of. I think I've said those exact words in week 1. And so what I'm noticing is that this is the time for us to really begin to build some skills. And so that essay that I read you, those wise words from Ernest Holmes from 70 years ago, people. 70 years ago he said those words. He entitled that talk Spiritual Armament. And when I look up the word armament, typically it has a military meaning to it, but it also means to equip ourselves. So, spiritual equipment. We are equipping ourselves with prayer, with meditation, with consciousness, with intention, with mindfulness. So that when we come to those places where we begin to have a struggle, when we come to those places where we feel it's duality, folks. That's what it is. It's duality. When we come to that place where we face duality, where we see somebody in front of us and we know that it's the other, and we forgot that it's God in form, when we come to that place, that's when we need to draw upon our skills. The low-hanging fruit. I know this because the low-hanging fruit is to grab the thing that I want to be right about, to grab that place where I'm just going to argue for what I know is right. But it does no good for me to argue for rightness if I have forgotten how to love. And so what if everything that is going on is really a thunderous call for love? greater love for ourselves, greater love for each other, greater love for our planet. I'm pretty convinced that that's what's going on here. And when Holmes talks about this idea that faith without works is dead, when he entreats us to not only should we pray, but we should act, each contributing the best they have to the common purpose, well, that's when we really need to draw upon our spiritual toolkit. Because if I am going out in the world and I am seeing the conditions about me, and maybe that conditions are the Democrats, and maybe that conditions are the Republicans, and maybe those conditions are the COVID, and maybe those conditions are somebody who just won't behave, right? If I'm out in the world and I'm trying to take action against something, I'm not saying that the action isn't necessary. What I'm saying is that the action needs to be grounded in love. Because if it's grounded against, then I'm only acting from a place of pure duality. And I'm only acting from the place of my mere mortal mind that is just trying to strategize or control or, try to make something the way I think it needs to be from my own human perspective. If what we're going through right now as a community, as a nation, as a world, if what we're going through right now is a thunderous call for love, I'm not sure that I have the answer. Because it's a pretty big call. And I think that, my strategizing and my trying to control things or trying to get it right or trying to whatever it is I'm trying to do needs to be up-leveled. Needs to be, I need to be clearer. And when I'm in fear, I don't know about you, I'm not so clear. When I'm afraid, my decisions are pretty poor. I'm not really thinking with all of the capacity of my marvelous mind. There's I don't know what the current scientific numbers are right now, but I remember a day when we were told that, we only used about 10 or 15% of our brain capacity. And if I'm in fear, I doubt I'm using that much. I doubt I'm even using 10%, because I'm just in that fight or flight mode, right? I'm going to get the heck out of Dodge, or I am going to bustle through. And that's when fear comes up, when I'm afraid, when I'm feeling uncertain, when I'm not confident, my ego takes over. And all my ego knows to do is to run away or to run through. But if I can pause, if I have done the work of spiritual armament, if I am equipped spiritually, then I know that the fight or flight is not the answer. The answer is to stand in love. And when I can pause and stand in love, then I have access not only to my beautiful mind, but to my higher wisdom self, to possibility, to things that I probably wouldn't have thought about if I was in that contracted place of, oh my God, I got to protect myself. I get a daily affirmation from Reverend Timothy, and I can't grab his last name right now, I'm sorry, Timothy, and it comes through in my text message. And this morning's affirmation was, I need no protection because there is nothing that opposes nor threatens me on any level. Spirit is the only power. Spirit and I are one. If I can remember that in the face of seeming adversity, then I'm going to be able to draw upon my spiritual toolkit, and I'm going to be able to walk this out standing in love. Not that wishy-washy, you're okay, I'm okay, let's agree to disagree. See, I'm even using disagree first. Let's agree to disagree kind of wishy-washy love, but the kind of love that knows a solution that neither of us, whoever us is, knows is possible. I'm right in the thick of this with you, and I'm sorry to tell you I don't have the strategy or the tactic or the right answer. I am seeking resources, and I am spending time leaning into equipping myself spiritually. One of the things that I decided to do was do a Power of 8 a.m. Zoom call every day through the election, because I need some help. I know you think I'm doing it for you. I'm actually doing it for me, because I need that call to prayer. I need that call to centering. I need that call to inspiration so that I don't get lost in all that's going on around me. And it's so easy to get lost in everything that's going on around me. And if you're like me, when you take up the call to love, when you take up the call to spiritual armament, things might get a little more dicey before they get a little better. Emma Curtis Hopkins called this chemicalization. It's that place where we want to be and where we are have to meet. And sometimes the integration's not so smooth. Sometimes works like that, and I am moved to a different place, and grace carries me through. But sometimes, like these days, when I've dug in my heels, and I'm right about something, chemicalization happens. And so I want you to be prepared for that. But I want to tell you it's temporary, and that as you walk this out, as you choose faith, and as you choose love over and over again, over fear, over hatred, over, battling something out, when you choose that, make that higher choice over and over again, that chemicalization evaporates so much more quickly as you make that choice over and over again. I think it was Susan Springfield who a couple of months ago used this metaphor of being on the same, it was a boat metaphor. And when I think about the things that we're experiencing in the United States, I think there are some of us who feel like the boat is a little boat and it's on perilous seas, and we need to really shore up and protect ourselves, and we need to help everybody. And then there are some who feel like the ship's plenty big, and we can navigate these seemingly perilous seas. What's your problem? But I think the challenge for me happens when I forget that we're not all on the same boat. When I forget to consider where the other person is coming from. When I can only see things from my vantage point, and I forget to widen my scope. Sometimes, when I have seen high seas rescue stories, you have the big boat and it's going along just fine, and it comes across the little boat that's in peril, and so they stop and they gather the survivors off the little lifeboats and try to protect them. So if I can belabor this metaphor a little bit, sometimes if the people on the big boat are scared, they won't think they can stop and help the people on the little boat. So we have to look at our fear and ask ourselves over and over again, is this what's motivating me? Am I motivated by fear? Or can I lean into it and walk through it and find that place where I can be motivated by love? And when I can find that place where I can be motivated by love, that's when I know what it is that's mine to do. That's when I know that I can lean in. You know, I came up through the recovery movement, and I got sober at a very young age. And I don't usually talk about that from up here, but the thing that I want to talk about was the most powerful thing that I did in moving through that situation and moving through addiction was to surrender. And it was the last place that I was willing to look. It seemed like I had to figure it out. I had to control it. I had to get a handle on it. You know, I would have people say to me, more or less, get your stuff together. I wouldn't say it that way. You know what they'd say. But it wasn't until I completely surrendered to the situation that I began to see a new possibility. I could not see a new possibility as long as I was entrenched in the problem. But it was only through the surrender of my self-will, if you will. Self-will, if you will. It's only when I could surrender to my self-will that I began to understand that there was something larger afoot. There's a piece of literature that talks about that no human power could have relieved us from our malady, but God could and would if God was sought. And so here again we have an example of spiritual armament, spiritual equipping, when we lean on the mystery. We lean on that power that knows how to keep the stars aligned and the earth orbiting around the sun. We lean on that power that knows how to make the grass grow. You know, Elijah told that great story last week about the guy with going over the type wire with a wheelbarrow, right? And for those of you who didn't hear it, re-listen to last week, because I'm not going to tell the whole story again. But the fact is that if you've been in this movement or any healing movement for a while, you've seen proof of your faith. You've seen proof that faith works. You've seen healing. You've seen shift. You've seen things change because you have been using spiritual tools. And yet, in the face of a new adversity, we fall back to those old habits that keep us stuck and keep us separate and keep us in duality. And yet we know that there's a power for good in the universe greater than us, and that we can use it and it'll use us. And I think that, you know, this proverbial shit hitting the fan that we're in right now as a nation is an opportunity for us to yet again suit up and show up, to do the spiritual work, so that when the opportunity arises, I say that word lovingly, when the opportunity arises, when our fear starts to kick up, when we get into the battle mode, or maybe you're putting your track shoes on and you're getting ready to get out of Dodge, when those things come up, to pause just long enough to let love lead the way. You know, I was listening to Leah's sing-along song that we've been singing all month. She's going to let love do the work. She's going to let love do the math. And that's how it works, folks. But it's unfamiliar to us often when we're in that place of fear. And so the invitation is to let love lead the way. The invitation is to find a place to surrender to win, to surrender the I'm right here in whatever the situation is, to finding out what love wants to see come through. And there are resources that will become available to you. I know that's how it works for me. When I can't find my way, and when I choose love, I'm resourced. We don't have to figure it out apart. It may feel like that because we've been in this COVID situation for going on 8 months now. And so we feel very much apart. But we can do this together. And there are tools that we can use. And I really do trust that when I have faith and love, love will lift me up. It will resource me. But it requires me choosing it over and over again. And it's not a one-off. It's work, friends, but it's a good work. I want to thank you for, this has been a difficult topic. It's been a rich topic, facing our fears. It's not the go-to that a lot of us, it's not it's not the place, the reflex action that we go to, right? When something scares us. We go to that place, if I got to protect myself, boy, do I know how to protect myself. But when I protect myself, I'm not open to love. I'm not open to possibility. I'm not open to greater good. So the invitation is to be open to that greater good. So that solution that we're seeking, 70 years ago, Ernest Holmes wrote that. And 70 years ago, whatever the crisis is that he was talking about, it was settled. We moved on, we grew, we survived, and we'll survive this. I would say we can, but rather than survive, I want us to thrive. And I know that if we turn to spiritual armament, if we turn to that place of spiritual equipment, that together we can rise. And together we can choose love. And together there will be some greater good that we couldn't have conceived of that'll come forth. So let's pray, shall we? So I simply close my eyes and invite you to do the same or lower your gaze as I speak this word, knowing that there is indeed a power and a presence that is moving in, as, and through all humankind, in, as, and through all beings everywhere. For I know that there is no place that God is not, that in all of creation, in everything that we experience, it was first that spark that came from the universe so that it could create out of itself. And so trusting and knowing that, we turn our attention back up to that creative space, and we allow ourselves to be open and available. We allow ourselves to be a force for good. And we turn to that place of spiritual equipment so that we can walk out and take action led by love. That we can indeed be a force of nature. And that we can courageously put one foot in front of the other, knowing that we need no protection, because there is nothing that opposes nor threatens us on any level. That spirit is the only power, and that spirit and each of us are one. So it is with a surrendered and grateful heart that I speak this word, that I know this highest good, and I trust that there is a mystery and a magic that is afoot. As ugly as some things may seem right now, I know that there is greater good that is coming forth, that is being birthed, that is moving in, as, and through each one of us. And so I call it good. I call on love. And I know that the action that I take today and throughout this week, and I know for each one that is listening that the action that is taken is indeed an action that is birthed out of love. And that highest and best solution comes forward, that each one of us is resourced, and that as we let love lead the way, it does the math, and that all is well. I give great thanks for this. I simply anchor this in that same power, the same power that breathes my body, the same power that makes the grass grow. I simply surrender myself to that, knowing that this is done. And together we say, and so it is.